A new interview has come out from World of Warcraft game director Ion Hazacostas that is completely making everyone lose their minds. They're putting a single button assistant in the game where you can press one button and do your entire rotation through any type of content you want, making everyone think that this will be a complete disaster. Blizzard's ruining the game, and they're gonna make the game only for the top 1%. They're making lazy people be able to leech off of everyone. Everyone will have it too easy. The simple should be simpler, so this doesn't have to happen. But all these assumptions don't really understand the real reason behind this change and how it actually works. So let's go through every one of these points and really understand whether this is a good change or a bad change. First of all, let's go through what this actually is. In World of Warcraft, you have a lot of abilities. Every one of them are useful to do different things, and there's some of them that will give you a lot of damage, but they need to be pressed in a specific order, in a specific rotation, if you will. So the first thing they're going to give us is a rotation helper that highlights the abilities that we should be pressing depending on the situation. If you have too much energy, you should press this button. If you have this level, if you have this buff, whatever happens, it'll actually tell you in some sort of way. Obviously, you can actually deactivate or activate this, but it is your choice. This will help people learn and get better at the game, as indeed the game can be very confusing, especially considering there's other add-ons that you can put in the game to make this exact same thing happen. This time it'll be in the game, so you can just choose it without having to go through and install different things for the game. Nobody's actually complaining about this. This seems to be just a positive thing that everyone agrees is a good feature for people who actually want to use it. You don't have to, but if you do, it might actually be beneficial for you. The second one is what really people are mad about. This one will just literally, you press one button and it will do the entire rotation for you without having to do anything else. You don't really learn your rotation, you don't really learn muscle memory, you really learn nothing. But this is what people are not understanding. This is not about learning. It has nothing to do with it. This is for people who don't care about doing better DPS to learn. They just want to play the game. And it's funny because Ian literally said this in the video too.
But we want to make sure that this is for accessibility purposes, that it's there for people who maybe honestly aren't interested in the gameplay of like mastering their spec. They want to explore Azeroth and experience the story, and the mechanics kind of get in the way of that sometimes.
There's a huge misconception in World of Warcraft that everyone is just going in to play the game in order to get mythic plus and raids, and that's all there is to the game. That's not true. Just like in other MMOs, just like Guild Wars 2 for example, you come in here and you also explore the game, you go around the world, you collect different skins, different mounts, and that's honestly a very big part of the game. This is what most people play the game for, regardless of what other content creators might want to make you believe. Wonder who specifically. This new feature will not teach you to play the game better. It will just allow you to experience the game in the parts that you actually want to experience them, to collect toys, to collect mounts. Not really worry about the perfect rotation for your Shadow Priest, just roleplay as you want and continue playing the game in the way that you want. You can disagree with that, but that's why this exists, not for any other reason. And let's be real, there are some people who literally skill click, who literally don't even have all of their spells binded.
I wish I could find, I know it was a rogue, and about 5 minutes after this person, a bot. The game, from a gameplay, observing the gameplay, it was so horrific that it didn't make sense. And the question of the chat is like, how do a bot? And I said, the evidence here why this bot. It didn't take long for a bot would, like, unironic, a bot with a human. And there are a lot of players like that who just don't. They like the world, they like the bosses, they big raids all around. And if they get a little helping, that's great.
What do you guys think? There's so many games right now, like fighting games, action games, where you press one button and you do the entire combo. Because most people just want to experience the cool, flashy combo while experiencing the game, while experiencing the story, and they really want to learn. They just want to go in there and blast. And this can be seen in MMOs as well. And if you're going to tell me that these people should just get good, well, maybe the whole conversation about this being for a top 100% so the game doesn't get simpler doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is for the people who just want to play the game, not for the top 1%, not for the middle, just for the people who we don't usually interact with the people who just play the story and nothing else. Some people want to learn and get better, but those people will do it anyways. The rest will stay with the stool, do a bit a bit of more damage. Normally, they would probably do absolutely horrible damage. And maybe they'll start contributing a bit more in group settings like open world bosses, making the game way easier to balance, specifically for open world, because the game won't have to consider a person doing 1k DPS as part of the players. The gap will be closer. Normally, what would happen is that you would go through a boss in World of Warcraft, and the boss would or take an insane amount of time or just explode. Because the difference between good players and bad players, especially with gear in mind, would just be too big. The game would not be able to know what to do. When now, with this new feature, it won't be as bad because everyone will do a more similar amount of damage, making us be able to engage with the mechanics of each of the boss fights instead. Just like what we have in Guild Wars 2, where we can do top, insanely big fights with 50 people that last a long time. There's another type of opinion that I've seen a lot, which is this is essentially just like autoplay. Comparing it to autoplay in Throne and Liberty, where the game would literally just play by itself. Literally move you around to the next boss over and over again. This is not even close to what World of Warcraft has right now. Or will have, I guess. You can see right here, Yumi TV playing with this new feature in the PTR, and you can see how they're only pressing one button, but they're still playing the game. They need to deal with the mechanics, they need to move around, they need to interact with the game, and they can even learn. Now, you can see how the DPS is absolutely putrid. It is literally worse than the tank right now, and this is obviously most likely because of the fact that, obviously, the rotation is not going to be perfect. It's going to be a lot of moments where the rotation needs to be broken in order to do better damage, but also the 0.2 delay of each of the abilities every time something happens, every time you actually press the button. But being able to just focus on rotation by pressing one button will teach you things, will teach you how to play your class in terms of your utilities, your mobility abilities, your defensives, and actually be able to understand your class in a better level if you're trying to do that. Of course, if you're not really trying to learn, this is not going to help you, but in this case, it could be beneficial. It can also help you to actually understand bosses in a better way, because usually the way that you would learn a boss is that you would learn your rotation beforehand in a training dummy or something like that in order to practice and have your rotation as a second nature thing. You just press the buttons while you're looking at the mechanics, your brain is on the mechanics, your hands are on the rotation. But with this, you can actually, without knowing the rotation, practice the boss anyways. Now, obviously, you should learn your rotation anyways, but this is a different way of actually interacting with the game that could be beneficial for some people. The other thing I've also heard about is the fact that people are gonna leech, they're gonna abuse this in order to get an advantage. They're gonna pretend like they're doing good damage when they're not, and using this in order to not do anything, put any effort, and get all of their reward. Well, to be honest, you could already do this, right? You can go into an LFR, you can go into the open world, attack the boss one time, and then AFK for the entire time and get all of the benefit from it. At least now people will do a little bit of damage while doing it. And honestly, most likely they will keep doing the AFK thing anyways. And for actual raids and for Mythic Plus, if people are not performing, well, they're gonna get kicked. So I guess it doesn't really matter that much. And for things like LFR, for people who actually don't play the game, they just play the game to experience it, not to get better, this probably will help them do more damage that they would usually do, because Jesus Christ, if you go to LFR, guys, you'll understand how bad things are there. The other thing I've heard a lot is the fact that they should actually focus on making the game simpler instead of making it automatic so people can actually handle it. And in some ways, I agree. Every time I talk to a friend in real life, even if they're gamers, even if they have played Elden Ring and so on, they see World of Warcraft with all the amount of buttons you have, or honestly any other MMO, and they feel like it's very complicated. They have a lot of things that they don't understand, a lot of UI, and they get very scared because of it. They don't want to learn a new game, they just want to play it. It's a video game, not a career in engineering. But this is why a one-button setup can actually help. What is easier to see? A bar like this or a bar like this? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Now, this doesn't mean that it should stay that way forever and these people should play the game like that forever, but this will give them a chance to actually not get overwhelmed and actually understand and experience the game for the good parts. And then, if they actually want to engage with the rest, with the actual hard parts or the more complex part, not even hard, it's not even hard, it's just, you have to learn the abilities, then you can go through and start blasting that as well. if you want to. Otherwise, you can stay in the type of gameplay that you like, doing the story, collecting things, and play the game for that reason. And let's be real, guys. We need more players in MMORPGs. We're not here... We shouldn't start gatekeeping people for not playing the game the way that we want. But Darren's, they could just make it so the game is a bit simpler so people don't get overwhelmed. Well, Guild Wars 2 does something like this. The game is pretty complicated. There's a lot of buttons that you can actually press, but there's a new thing that you can do called low intensity builds, where you press only one button, and this will allow you to do almost as much damage as a normal build. The problem is that this doesn't matter. People still complain about not doing enough DPS, and that people that do good DPS are just min-maxers and elitists that just try hard too much. I mean, look at this. Usually you should be doing between 30 and 40k DPS. This person's complaining that 8k DPS is too much. Even when builds like this do 30k plus DPS by just pressing one literal button. But the people who actually are doing this bad DPS, they don't care. They don't want to go through, or they don't even know that they could actually get a build that does different things. They don't have the information. They don't want to have the information to actually set everything up to be able to do things like this. In reality, this type of add-on, this type of feature is the only thing that will really help this type of players. Not even help them, but make us not have so much of a consequence by interacting with them. There's a reason why the easiest classes to play, like Paladin and Hunter, are so played right now, because they're so easy and have such little buttons to actually press. It's surprising that Druid is at the top, considering it's one of the hardest ones, but I guess maybe one of the specs isn't. I actually don't know. I'm not really playing right now. There's something very satisfying about just playing a class that doesn't have that many buttons, that has the rotation, a very simple rotation, and you just blast and do a lot of damage with it. It just feels good. And of course, if you want to play something harder, you can, but there's nothing wrong with making the game a bit easier to see. Both things can happen at the same time. We can have an easy rotation tool to learn them, a one-button rotation for people who actually don't want to engage with it, and also trying to make the game simpler, and they have over the years, for people to understand them in a better way. It doesn't have to be this black and white, me versus them, me the bad player versus the top level, and me the top level player versus the noobs who can't play the game. There's a space for everyone. And there's a lot of things that shouldn't be in the game. Like, why is there a difference between a Hex and Polymorph? Hex transforms you into a cockroach, and Polymorph into a sheep. They're the same type of spell. They should behave in the same sort of way. See, guys, I can also agree with Asmongold sometimes. But there can also be situations where you have specs that are hard to play and complex, and you choose the one you want. You want to play something hard? Play Feral Druid. You want to play something easy? Play Red Paladin. Whatever you want, you have an option for it. There's a bit of flavor for everyone, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there are also things like Enhancement Shaman. Oh. At the end of the day, guys, this tool can be very useful for certain people that are starting with the game and can experience it in other ways. And in my opinion, it's going to make the game more popular. I don't think there's a lot of negatives for this. The only people that will get negatively affected are people who would not normally interact with this feature anyways. I truly think that this entire drama is a bit too much. This will benefit casual players the most. It will benefit top players as well. It will benefit everyone. But of course, if you disagree, please let me know in the comments down below so I can tell why you disagree with it. Maybe there's something I haven't thought about. Regardless, if you do, you can always come to my Twitch to debate me right there every morning. Go to my Ko-Fi if you want to support my content. And see you guys around. Love you all. Bye. Bye.